We ready?
Let me know if you have anything else. Okay.
Thanks, Walter.
Yep, no problem.
All right, this is, today's date is March, March 13th, 2005, and we're here at the Lamory Hackett Post number 72 of the American Legion, and I'm Bill Payne. I'm interviewing Mayor Yerick. This is, he served during what time?
Korean War.
He served during the Korean War in the
U.S. Navy.
in the U.S. Navy. And also here today is Kate Thornton and Nakia Grzyński and Matt McElreath, who are doing our technical work, and also Commander Alan Grzyński, who is our overall leader. We'll get started. So, Mayor Yerick,
Yes,
your first name is Robert,
that's correct.
and were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted.
You enlisted in the United States Navy.
It's the United States Navy in 1950 and served for 4 years thereafter. Did my boot training in Rhode Island, Newport, Rhode Island. It was opened up for a short period of time. I was in one of the companies, one of the few companies that went through there. And I think there was only somewhere less than 20 companies that went through there, and then they converted it back to an officer's training school. Had a quite eventful experience, having never been away from home. It was an experience. I was a young, smart ass in a little village of Philmont, but that certainly changed after I got in with the big boys. And we had a petty off chief who was called back in because of the Korean conflict. He had retired, a chief petty officer, and he was not a happy camper because he got called back in. So he shaved a lot of corners. I'm not going to give you his name, but he shaved a lot of corners. He used to do our laundry. He used to rent his car to us. There were a lot of no-nos that he provided us with. But it was a good experience, and it certainly opened my eyes to a different world. As I said before, I was a young, wise guy in the streets with no education, although I did graduate from high school. No further education on a formal basis. And the service provided me with an education. I was a pretty heavy drinker as a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid. And believe it or not, when I went in the service, I gave up drinking. And the reason I gave up drinking is because I was scared to death. I was no longer there under my mother and father's guidance, and I had to fend for myself, and alcohol just didn't fit into the picture. But I didn't give it up as soon as I got a feel for myself and what I was. I resumed my bad habits to some degree, but not to the extent that I did before. So I was very, very proud not only to join the service, but I was very, very proud of myself because of what I was doing with my life as a result of going in the service.
You picked the Navy, Bob?
I picked the Navy simply because I was always led to believe that there were two branches of the service that had excellent education programs. The Navy was one and the Air Force was the other. Contemplated the Marines, believe it or not, at 117 pounds, 5'7". But the Marines was more physical, and I just didn't fit that mold. I don't know if somebody told me that or I realized it, but I just didn't fit that mold. So anyway, went through basic training. I got just a little humor. As with any training program, they put you on a rifle range, and I failed disastrously. I saw more granny's drawers. That's a red flag that goes up when you miss the target. I saw more of those, and finally the guy put me through, and he wasn't going to let me finish basic training, but anyway, I convinced him that was the right thing to do, and I got a 96-hour pass, and I went home and got married.
Oh.
And he said, this was after boot camp, he said if I had known that, I would never have passed boot camp. But anyway, went to Virginia, to await a ship. And
That will be Newport News.
Newport News, Virginia, and I picked up the USS Geary, DD 710. And I remember...
That's a destroyer, right, Bob?
It's a destroyer, that's
Mhm.
correct. And I remember the first time out, so rough, just absolutely terrible. We had to tie ourselves in, and, you know, the whole 9 yards. And I remember saying, dear God, if this is what I gotta do for 4 years, take me now, because I'm not gonna make it. It was terrible. But my trip was on the USS Gearing, as I said, DD 710, was to go over to Gibraltar and pick up the ship that I was assigned, which was the USS Newport News. Absolutely gorgeous ship. It was a heavy cruiser, and it had a higher population than the village I came from.
That will be Philmont and Columbia County in New York.
Philmont and Columbia County with a 1,700 population, and the Newport News' complement was 2,200. So it was like a young man going to the city, a little guy going to the city. But it was a beautiful ship, absolutely beautiful ship. I was always told that it was designed to be a luxury liner, and because of the Korean conflict, it was converted from a luxury liner into a heavy cruiser. And it was a good experience. I went aboard as a deckhand, and that's somebody that does all the painting and scrubbing and blah, 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 blah. And I said, boy, this is not your cup of tea.
Mhm.
So I finally convinced somebody, and I don't know who it was, that that was not my cup of tea, and there's something else that I could get into. So I got into communications, crypto, teletype, and that was exciting. That was very, very exciting. Not only did you meet with a different element of people, which was all the officers, but it was challenging work. Cryptographics was challenging, teletype was back in the 50s, teletype was challenging, and you was in the know. You knew just about everything that was going on the ship and around the ship. So that was exciting. And I served 4 years sea duty. Never did get any shore duty. And in those 4 years sea duty, I did 6 different tours in the Mediterranean. Visited many countries, Turkey, France, Germany, Italy, and had a very, very good experience, although it got a little wearing at times, you know, wearing me dull. It got dull. You're just there so many times. But did some touring and had some good experiences. Got transferred from Newport, Rhode Island, which was the home port of the Newport News. My buddy got transferred to the Des Moines, which was home port in Boston, and I pulled some strings and got transferred to the Des Moines in Boston as well.
Was that a heavy cruiser also, Bob?
Heavy cruiser also, yeah. And this is appropriate on this day. His name was Joseph Patrick McMahon, and he and I were best of friends, and we were for 20 years after, and then we kind of lost contact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I got assigned to the Des Moines, which was stationed in Boston, I had a very unfortunate accident a short time thereafter and was hospitalized for quite a period of time, and that brought about my discharge.
What happened then?
I got hit by broadsided by the governor and senator in New Jersey. And be careful what I say here. But anyway, I got broadsided by the governor and senator in New Jersey, and they put me in a hospital for quite a period of time, which I got discharged from. Now, prior to going to the hospital, I had taken a test for second-class petty officer. I was a third-class petty officer, and while I was in the hospital, they gave me the papers to say that I had passed and was going to be promoted to second-class petty officer, but that never happened. I got out before that happened, which didn't make any difference. But just to sum it all up, during that period of time, I got married, as I mentioned before, and my wife and I were talking about making the Navy a career. And as a result of the accident, that didn't happen. But the reason I mention that is because when I first went in, I hated it. I just hated it. And I said to the chief petty officer, I said, if you put me in a galley, I'll cut my goddamn hand off to get out. And he sat down and talked to me like a father, and convinced me that that wasn't the right thing to do. although I don't think I would have ever done it. But that was the attitude, and then to compare that to the attitude I had prior to having an accident where we were thinking about making a career, it's fully terminated. So anyway, that's my career as far as the Navy was concerned. I was extremely proud. I never saw any action, never saw any battles or anything of that nature, though we went through the routine trial runs, whatever you want to call it. But I was very, very proud to serve my country. My father was never in the service. My brother just missed World War II. So I was the only one in my family that entered the service and had any service experience, and I was very proud of that. And I know that my mother and father and my brother and sister, I know they were extremely proud of me too for turning my life around. Because my father did invite me to leave. He said, "You overextended your well, so find a place to go." So anyway, that was pretty much my career. I got out of the Navy. I came back to my little community. Could not find a job, and I had an aunt who lived in Nassau. But anyway,
On Long Island in New York State?
yeah, no, not Nassau. It was up around Albany.
Oh.
Man, I can't think of it. Anyway, she worked for Mr. Delson. Delson at that time, D.H. Delson, had a department store in Saugerties, and that was one of 5 department stores he had. And I was unable to land a job. So she said, "Would you be interested in being interviewed by Mr. Delson?" I said, "Absolutely. I'll take anything." And by the way, I did go to school for retailing down in Washington, D.C. For those that don't know, I had an opportunity with S.S. Kresge. S.S. Kresge was a 5 and dime store, like Woolworths.
Did you go to that school after you got out of service?
No, before
Before you went.
my service. And I didn't stay with the program. I did for a short period of time, but I was in love, and I came back to Saugerties to my sweetheart, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, so I went into that program. And she said, "Would you be interested in an interview with Mr. Delson?" I said, "Absolutely." So I had an interview, and he hired me, and he put me in the Saugerties store. That's how I came to Saugerties in 1953, 54. Anyway, so I worked there, met some wonderful people, fell in love with Saugerties, because Saugerties was like going to the city for me. Right? Population of 5,000 compared to 1,700. So I worked for Delson for a year, and then I had an opportunity to go to IBM. And I went to IBM, and I worked in machine accounting, started out in machine accounting, didn't even know what the machines were at that time, but anyway. Educated myself. I went to almost every day to school that was offered by IBM. Law school, English, you name it, I took it. Because old Tom Watson was then on election for education. So anyway, I was in machine accounting, and then I went to programming school, became a programmer, hated it, but nevertheless I became a programmer. I really wanted to be a manager. I love managing, I love the diversity of management, I love the responsibility, I love the authority. So I got in, I went to programming school, got out of programming school, and it just wasn't my cup of tea. And so I went from a professional area to a non-professional area just to get into management. And I made a commitment to myself that if I do this, that I'm going to get back in a professional area within 2 years. So I got out as a manager and went back in 23 months later as a manager in the area I came from. And I had 33 plus years with IBM, and at least 25 of that was in management, various levels of management. I did okay for myself. And had a short, all of my career was in Kingston, with the exception of a very short stay or jaunt to headquarters in Sterling Forest. I went down there on a special assignment. had people all over the world. The product that we developed was an internal product for IBM called CMIS, and it was, as I said, it was for internal use. It was used throughout the world for all the IBM locations. I think they still use it today. It was the control and tracking of a product from the absolute beginning to the end. That's all of the computerization of that product from beginning to end. So I had a good practice. Came out of the service in 1980. Out of the service, I retired in 1988. Once again, floundered. Didn't know what to do with myself. I made a couple of commitments that would keep me on the straight and narrow. Tried everything. I got on 2 or 3 board of directors for literacy, literacy, senior projects. Tended bar at the American Legion, Post 72, Lemery Hackett in Saugerties, New York. Anyway, I couldn't find myself. Just didn't know what I wanted to do. But I knew I had to do something because as I sat there in my house, my 4 walls were closing in on me. So one day we were just chatting at lunch, 2 or 3 guys, Jack Bartels, whom you know, and Greg Hellsmuller, 3 of us were chatting. And we didn't like what we saw in Saugerties. We said that it's dying on its feet, so it needs a little spark, a little tuning up. So we formed a new party, and the New Vision Party, and that's in office today. By the way, we sweat when we originated the new party. So I've been involved in that since 1996, 1996. And look, so many things. This is an excellent community from a camaraderie point of view, from a volunteerism point of view, from a helping those that need help. It's phenomenal. I mean, I've been in many different communities, and it's phenomenal. And I really believe that Saugerties gave me something. I raised 6 children here in Saugerties. And Saugerties made a very valuable, positive impact on my life. So I really believe that I owe Saugerties something, and I'm paying them back. I'm 75 years old, and I'm still out there every day working as mayor of the village of Saugerties. And that's pretty much it. That's where I am today.
Thank you a lot, Your Honor.
Okay.
Good luck in the next election.
If I get beat, then I'm in trouble, but there's no opposition.